Oh, yeah. That's gonna be wild.
Oh,
How long is this
and
gonna
Eagle
be?
Pizza
How
is
long
gonna
the
be
road's
on
gonna
the
be?
menu.
As long as it needs to be.
And at any time you
I was like,
want, a good way to
I
describe it.
was like, me, who's the least? I was like, I need a number.
I give them a
Yeah.
There's value in that. Sometimes you have a limited. Will definitely die down
Yeah.
after
It was like towards the end of my.
they're gonna get some snow.
That was super helpful.
Been I mean, I think it's been spring skiing up there, just nice and sunny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that for non.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, sweet. That was a great support. I know, sorry, I kind of took you there.
It's okay, I can. Go and start hanging out teaching, right? Like, oh. What's that for?
Yeah.
It's 6 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. And we will begin with the land acknowledgement. And also I want to thank our audience for coming. I'm very pleased to have the folks here tonight. We would like to acknowledge that we gather on the ancestral homelands of Coast Salish peoples, specifically Nooksack and Lummi tribes, who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin throughout the San Juan Islands and the North Cascades watershed from time immemorial. On behalf of everyone here, we want to express our deepest respect and gratitude for our Indigenous neighbors, the Nooksack and Lummi tribes, for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. Next, please, allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And approval of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda as written?
Nope.
If not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Motion to approve agenda as written. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up is consent agenda. I entertain a motion to approve the consent.
Go to the
What's
order.
that?
Go to the order.
Go to the order.
Number 2.
It's two, I missed that twice. Okay, go to the order. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, no, that's
Too
right.
small a print for me.
The first thing I want to acknowledge is that it is School Board Appreciation Month. So I want to acknowledge the 5 of you. I know that you all have full-time lives and full-time jobs and activities outside of here. So on behalf of the school district, I just want to say how much I appreciate getting to work with the 5 of you. And I think you all do a fantastic job representing all of the district, not special or certain interests, but just making sure we're doing what's best for kids. So I thank all of the 5 of you for your hard work, and we'll be working with the schools to get some acknowledgement out that it's School Board Appreciation Month. I know none of you do it for the acknowledgement or the recognition, but I just want to make sure we recognize you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other good of the order piece is, as Brenda mentioned, hopefully everyone in our area got the mailer that went out to kind of celebrate the good things that are going on in our schools, as well as in our ERC and our Mount Baker Academy. So I want to thank the administrators who helped put those pieces together, and the office staff here who helped prep and print and get it off to mail. So we're excited about sharing the positive things around the district with those folks that support and are taxpayers in our area, and in addition to those that are just enrolled families. So we're pretty proud to get this out, and we're hoping to send another one out after second trimester. Yeah, so I forgot to the order.
Well, thank you. So now we can entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any information from audience? Tammy, do we have anyone signed up? So we'll, Natalie, you stand up.
Hello, my name is Natalie Chavez. Thank you for listening to public comments this evening and Happy New Year. I was sorry to have missed the last meeting on December 12th. I actually showed up on Thursday, December 19th, and nobody was here, so it was a mix-up on my end. At the meeting on November 14th, I mentioned that at the following meeting, I would read you all the public comment that I made at the Washington State Board of Health meeting on the morning of Wednesday, November 13th. So I'll do that tonight, which goes as follows, quote, "My name is Natalie Chavez. Thank you for listening to public comments this morning. A lot has happened since the last BOH meeting that I attended in regards to COVID vaccine related lawsuits with positive outcomes, including some with multi-million-dollar rewards to plaintiffs who were terminated for not willing to get experimental COVID-19 vaccines injected into their bodies. Injections that we know do not stop infection and do not prevent transmission. Injections that did not undergo 8 to 10 years of safety testing and had no long-term clinical trials in animals or humans. Injections that we know have caused harm, even death, to numerous individuals, including many Washingtonians, which include members in my own community. You can learn more about the COVID vaccine injured at the website react19.org. That is REACT19.org. COVID vaccine injured individuals in Netherlands filed a lawsuit against Bill Gates, Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla, and the Dutch state. Last month, the Leeuwarden court ruled that it does have jurisdiction over Bill Gates. The court found sufficient evidence that the claims against Bill Gates and other defendants are connected and based on the same complex of facts. The next court hearing is scheduled for this month, November 27th. One of the COVID vaccine injured plaintiffs has since died, and another one is so severely vax injured that she can no longer speak. So her father spoke on her behalf at a court hearing in Netherlands on September 18th. I also want to bring your attention to the Southwest District Health Board in Idaho, which oversees 6 counties in Southwest Idaho. Last month, on October 22nd, they became the first local health department in the United States to remove experimental COVID-19 injections from its taxpayer-funded sites, 30 healthcare sites. The health board voted to remove the vaccines after approximately 300 of their community members made public comments urging the health board to stop promoting COVID-19 injections. One Idaho nurse said that she knows many people who have been injured by the COVID-19 vaccines. And a physician on the health board said, quote, "The people of this district were demanding answers. Many came forward with heartbreaking stories of vaccine injury," unquote. The COVID cards are definitely collapsing, along with the COVID narrative that was propagated by the FDA, CDC, on social media, the mainstream news, and in our state at every level, from the Department of Health to local health departments. Thank you for your time, unquote. And also thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. Anyone else present that wanted to speak to the board? If not, I have 3 letters to the board that they're each one sure enough to fit in 3 minutes, and so I'll read them into the record here out loud. First is from Tony Musseri. Hello, school board. I know that an upcoming agenda item is building out a health clinic on campus, which will be operated by CMAR. While I do feel there's a need for our students to have easy access to medical care, as it can be difficult for them to get into Bellingham, I do have some concern about the expansion. My understanding is that CMAR is already servicing the district in some ways, giving students and only students access. It is also my understand that with the expansion, community members outside of the students will have access. My first concern with the expansion is safety. Having people show up on campus in the area where students are walking past when going from class to class seems problematic. They will inevitably cross paths. Also, with the layout of the campus, it does not seem feasible to monitor whether people accessing the clinic will go to other places on campus. My second concern is the cost associated with building out the clinic and what kind of commitment the district is making to allow CMAR to use its space on campus. With all the challenges and changes the district has faced recently and will be going through in the near future, I wonder if it would be better to table this plan until a point when the district is in a more stable place. I appreciate all of the time you all put in, and I do believe the district is heading in the right direction. Thanks, Tony Wasseri. The next letter is from Stacy Fennell. Good afternoon. I'm writing on behalf of the new health center that just opened at Mount Baker High School. I understand that an amendment is going before the board regarding the future of this contract. I strongly urge you to approve this amendment so that CMAR can continue doing important work to support the Mount Baker community. CMAR may just be starting to support the physical health needs of Mount Baker, but the CMAR behavioral health program has been working close with the district since 2015 to support the mental health needs of your students. CMAR works with 14 other districts in the state, and Mount Baker has been one of the strongest of our strongest partners. We have heard from your students and staff for years that Mount Baker students need more resources, and I am excited that CMAR has been able to step up and fill this need. If you have any questions about CMAR behavioral health and the services that we plan to continue to provide along with our primary care partners, please feel free to reach out, I should say. Stacy Fennell is Child and Family Program Director for CMAR Community Health Centers. And then the last is from Amber Martinson. I am so excited to see something that will have such a positive impact on not only our high school, but the community in general. As this grows, this center will fill many gaps that our district has. Being so rural and lower income makes so many of our neighbors have to make hard choices. I am 100% excited for what this can become and appreciate the continued support from our school board. Thank you, Amber Martinson. So that completes the public comment section.
Sir? Russ, I'm sorry, I signed up on the wrong one. I signed in instead of.
Oh,
on
okay,
that, So
yes.
I would like to make public. comment.
Certainly, yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry that, yeah.
Sorry about that. It's based on which one. Thank you for allowing me to have public comment here. My name is Nancy Button. And I'm coming as both a public, no, I guess I can only come as a public citizen on this, but I will tell you that I serve on the Ferndale School Board as well. And I know that you are considering a resolution or supporting a resolution that both Linden and Eastmont have put forth to protect girls' sports for biological girls only. I too will be bringing that to Ferndale this next meeting that we have at the end of the month. Just today, the federal court ruled that the changes that had been made by the Biden administration to the Title IX language, going from biological male and female to gender identity to determine who can play in which sports. It was ruled that the Department of Education had exceeded its statutory authority, and also it ruled that the final rule violates the Constitution of the United States. So I would say that all the entities have gotten out over their skis in making these proclamations, and just today, this came down as something that I think will really shake up what's going to be happening forward in the schools. So it would be great to be on the right side of history on this and support protecting girls' sports for just biological girls. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. So let's see here. Next up is presentations. We will have information from the board after the presentations. And we are very delighted tonight to have the Mount Baker Student School Finance Work Group with us. And I had the pleasure on Tuesday night to listen to Kaylin speak very eloquently at the Blaine Town Hall on school finance. So I'm very pleased to have this as a point of focus of our students. So can both introduce both of you and then go ahead. And then I reserved a little time at the end for questions.
I'm Kaylin Jewell. I'm a senior here at Baker. And through ASB, I've gotten involved in advocating for properly funded public education. So that's kind of why I'm here today and what I'm focusing on right now.
I'm Savannah Gooch. I'm also a senior, and being an ASB, well, I started painting the rock. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the different designs. And also Kaylin really inspired me to come to this meeting tonight and to stand up for more of pushing for a better school budget and advocating for what's right in each and every individual club.
So to get started tonight, we kind of have had one goal, and that's to fund our education and advocate for that education. So starting off, our ASB is in the process of reaching out to host an inter-high in the coming months that brings schools from Whatcom and Skagit County together, and it allows our ASBs to collaborate on a smaller level. And what we would focus on at that is how school funding works, how school boards operate, and how to encourage student activism at every school, and what that can look like at a school level all the way to like what we're doing at the state level. And at that, we also want to start the Yellow Letter Project, which is a campaign to encourage students, teachers, parents, constituents to write their representatives on a yellow piece of paper to encourage a bigger visual impact. So if you all of a sudden get 50 yellow letters on your desk, you're gonna want to respond more. So that's kind of what we're doing with that right now.
So today we met with Representative Joe Timmons. It was a really, really good meeting. I mean, we talked about a lot of really impactful and important things going on at Mount Baker. Some of them being the impacts that it has on students and teachers, the poverty cycle, the facilities that that cannot be maintained, state funding and constitutional conflicts, the impact on fine arts, so like band, choir, and the art department as a whole, like ceramics and all those art classes, but also reflecting on the good things that we see at Mount Baker High School. Even though that there's some financial setbacks in clubs and sports, the students are still pushing through and going to state competitions, and like One Baker Voice is going to Washington DC in February, and it's like these clubs and sports are having these really, really great opportunities despite having financial setbacks.
And then next, the Blaine Town Hall that was mentioned earlier. So I got the opportunity to go speak, and so me and 2 other students from Blaine and Ferndale spoke at this event, and also 9 other people. And Representatives Joe Timmons, Alicia Rule, and Senator Schumacher were all there. And it gave an opportunity for them to hear like firsthand the experience that all of us are going through on a daily basis. And it just kind of brings to light the fact that Blaine doesn't have a librarian, and that we're getting less and less opportunities every day, and Ferndale's elective opportunities are dwindling. So that gave a really good opportunity to share our voice. And then they also offered the opportunity to go down to the Capitol and shadow them for a day. So get a tour of the Capitol, see the House floor, and then see what it looks like to lobby and to speak with constituents and have meetings with representatives. And today, during the meeting with Representative Timmons, one of his big things that I said to him was would it be worth it to go down and talk to representatives that are still hesitant about funding a education, like prioritized budget and be like, you're affecting my education. So like, what can we do to fix that? Because at least for me in Savannah, we won't be the ones to experience better funded education. But we want to make sure that the generations after us have the opportunity to get the education that we have had in our lifetimes, and because they deserve it just as much as we have. So trying to speak with as many people in power as we can. So now we'll open it up to questions.
So I'll start with you, Danielle. You would like to start?
Can you start there?
Okay, we'll start with Jason. Go ahead, Jason.
I have really no questions, but I will say, thanks for coming. You two have a great future in public speaking and stuff that's really good. Heard you guys talk, or Kaylin for sure, talk at a few things, and very good future coming. And one thing, when you say the good things that are happening and the students are pushing through, and that's a really good thing. And we've all said, and I noticed from day one at the teachers meeting when we went, like the staff was still in very good spirits, which makes it good for the kids when they're like that, and then the kids push through. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for taking an interest in this. You know, all the adults talking all the time, it can become sort of an echo chamber, but I think that you're going to make a bigger impact than we ever could. So I think that that's really important, and thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
How's the intern night coming along? Is that?
Inter high, yeah. So we reached out just before winter break. That's kind of when all this got started. So we sent the email to Kimberly she works at LC. So I don't know if they had already started winter break. And we're gonna send a follow-up email because we haven't heard back yet. But I do know that they need someone to host in March. So we're kind of jumping on the opportunity to be the ones to host.
Okay, cool. So you'll be meeting with other students and
Mhm.
kind of talking about the work that you're doing and the fact
Mhm.
that they're doing some things.
Yeah, we've both attended different inter highs, and I know for me it was really valuable to work with, like, it forces you to get out and work with other schools, and that will be life skills that we need to work with other people, and it was for the greater good, so that was good.
I think what you guys are doing is you're kind of building up your problem solving skills, right? There's some big problems out there, and you need people that can kind of network and connect people and get talking and getting those conversations going. So that's great. Good job. Keep it up. Yeah.
Okay, now we're ready.
First, I want to say that I'm so happy to see that both of you feel confident enough to not just come to us, but to other venues, to our representatives, and know that your voice matters and that you deserve a seat at one table to speak your piece and not be intimidated by some big legislator that they shouldn't have to listen to you. That is such an important lesson. And I'm just, it moves my heart to see that you both learned it at a young age. I know you don't feel young. I wanted to hear a little bit more about, you know, you talked about you're seeing impacts as students. And when we're advocating, I think it would be really helpful for us to be able to say our students are telling us that X, Y, and Z is happening and it hurts. Can you say any examples of what some of the impacts you're seeing, either personally or students around you? I mean, I know you mentioned sports, but what does it look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Something that I shared with Representative Timmons today is that in my personal experience of my freshman year, the algebra teacher, Miss Ohms, it was her very first year teaching here, and she made a very good impact on me. You know, she reached out when I was having a hard time, and, you know, she checked in on me when I was struggling, and it really, like, it still sticks with me to this day. And, you know, it's really sad to see, you know, her go, you know. I mean, it was only her first year teaching ever, you know, and I mean, that's not only sad to see as a student, but also, I mean, so discouraging for her, for any teacher that gets cut. So that's, you know, that's one reason, you know, students seeing their favorite teachers go. Something else was when Mr. Lewis retired last year, we weren't able to fully replace him. That kind of sounds bad, but you know what I mean. And so 2 of his classes were pushed onto other teachers, and then the other 2 were just cut entirely, which not only prohibits the students learning, but also prohibits teachers, that could fill that role that aren't. Something that the facilities, so like bathrooms being closed, that's really prohibiting, having to go all the way over yonder.
Yeah, we have one bathroom that's been closed since probably a month before winter break.
Oh, yeah.
Because students ripped the sink off the wall and we don't have budget to repair it.
Right.
So,
which of course, that's a student fault. I mean, that's nothing that,
that's not something you plan for.
yeah, exactly. But, it's really unfortunate that we can't, fix that when problems arise. So yeah. I'm sure that I can come up with
If
more.
you
Yeah.
think of more later,
Mhm.
you can always send us an email.
And that's something that Representative Timmons encouraged as well, is if we had, 3 or 4 like representatives from Mount Baker, either, go to the Capitol and, have a meeting and talk with representatives and sharing stories from other students and other teachers and stuff like that.
So kind of to start off, piggybacking off of what Savannah said. So for me, Miss Ohms personally, and I shared this at the Blaine Town Hall too, but during my freshman year, I was going through a childhood sexual assault case where my 5th grade teacher was the defendant and I was the survivor. And she was the one that understood why getting to school was so difficult for me. And she was the one that set up a meeting with all my teachers and figured out a plan to get me to school. And she was the one that started that off. And that is the reason that I made it through high school to this point. Like I was ready to drop out and do online education. So I can very confidently say that she got me through that freshman year. And then off of what Savannah said about Mr. Lewis, I took his chemistry class and fell in love, and that's the reason that I'm going to Wazoo for chemistry with focus in education. So it was really disheartening to see those classes go, the physics and geology, because I was ready and excited to take those classes because I'm gonna have to take those classes in college and teach them at a high school level without ever taking them at a high school level, and that puts me at a disadvantage. And then kind of going off on my own thing, FFA has been probably created the biggest impact in my high school journey. I've been in it since 8th grade, and it's allowed me to be speaking here today, and it's got me out of my comfort zone and grown me as a leader. And since my freshman year, we've gone from 5 CTE teachers to 2. And those CTE teachers, I believe, got 100 days of their contract cut. So that's made it so that at the beginning of the year, they didn't think we could go to like a fair, and they had to cut back on a lot of what they do in FFA. And so like for the fair, for example, I make $2,000 off of every pig, and that's making it so kids can't make $2,000 or more. So that's really prohibiting that. But also for the students that don't feel that college is the best option for them financially or personally, it makes it so that they can get their forklift certificate, or in the past they could have gotten a word certificate or a cooking certificate or a welding certificate. And now those opportunities have been cut way down. And so it puts those students at a disadvantage. So I think the cuts to that have been detrimental to our community. And I think we're going to see the impacts a lot longer than what we expect.
Yeah, thank you. At Tuesday's meeting, my remarks, and I mentioned that we had cut 20 positions this year, but your remarks about Ms. Owen actually brought that home, what that means. I mean, to dryly say 20 positions is one thing, but to have such a personal impact is a whole different thing, and it really, I think you're doing great work. I'm glad that you were able to meet all of your local representatives at that meeting, and then today with Representative Timmons and several of us in the leadership of the district are planning a day of advocacy during this session, and we've talked about trying to coordinate that with probably at least a couple of students if we can, and so give that some thought. And because I think your voices are actually stronger than ours, I would say that.
And with Miss Ohms, it got, she went to Ferndale and it got back to the Ferndale superintendent, like what I said about it. And through a couple people, it got back to one of our teachers, and she pulled me aside yesterday and told me that Miss Ohms texted her crying because she misses Baker so much.
Yeah, well, I mean, that drives us to keep our, the funding level up. And one of the things that was said at Tuesday was the gaps that we have, and we have some good representation here that I think everyone can benefit from. Statewide amount to about $350 per student out of Senator Shoemake said out of 14,000 per student spending, more or less average. So that's what we need to catch up this year. It's doable if we can get that kind of pressure that you're bringing to bear. Because the mood going into this legislative session is, no, I don't think we can do it. But I think between parents, education, community, and particularly students, I think that is really the key to pushing the needle a little more towards solving that problem. So I think the energy that you bring in and also the knowledge, because you've studied it, then combining that energy and knowledge is really what makes it so powerful. So thank you very much. And we'll certainly be in touch. And we'd like to meet the rest of your students working on your school finance group too. So I recognize you're all busy. But
Every Wednesday, every school day from 9 to 9:30. So.
Well, we do have a school visit for the high school. We'll schedule that later.
Yeah.
Probably the 31st of this month, and I think it would be great if we could put a slice of that school visit into meeting with your group. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And you're always welcome to stay, but if you got, I recognize you have homework. That's why I scheduled you first here.
Thanks,
So.
Caitlin.
And thank you, proud mom back there.
Yeah.
For all your support. Okay. Next up is Northwest Leadership Associates, and I think Nick, I'll have you.
Sounds good.
Talk there and the mid-search report. We'll see you next year.
See everybody. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
How we doing? Okay?
Yeah.
You excited?
Absolutely.
Good.
No
Good.
snow,
How are
so
you
it's all
doing?
good.
Well, I was telling these guys who were driving up, I won't talk too much because they gave me a bad time about over talking. That coming up here the first week of January, I can remember the wind blowing out the northeast, drifts that were 20 feet high, and school was closed. In fact, one year when I was principal at Nooksack, it was closed for 10 straight days. And Ferndale was closed too at that time as well. And I think Baker was too. But anyhow, we're here and we're glad to be here. Thanks for having us back. It seems like we were just here, but we weren't. It's been a while and we've been busy. And we do have an agenda. I don't know if you have that, Tammy, to put up there for tonight to cover with you. We won't take too long. But I think I'll speak for all three of us when I say that that's a tough act to follow with our two students. But the most effective way we found, whether to pass a bond or a levy or to go down to Olympia for your day on the Hill, is to have student voice. The legislators and the community and the parents and the non-parents will listen to students over the adults. So if you're going down to Olympia, we found it most effective is we took kids with us. And the doors that don't always get open got open when students showed up. So or from our experience, that's how it works. So
and the caliber of presentations and contributions the students can make now is really amped up in the last 3-4 years. These guys are great.
Yeah,
And we see that all over all in the state.
yeah,
Really nice.
we do. And a lot of credit, I'm sure, goes to the FFA program with that. Public speaking that they do and learning that. So anyhow, we wanted to cover tonight where we're at it's really not the midpoint of the search. There's over 6 weeks to go before your position closes, which closes on the 21st of February. And so we've got a lot of time. It's not like there's any sense of urgency here, but we've been pushing hard. After the first of the year, we sent out a reminder to all. As you can see, we had 104 applications that were sent out, brochure. We sent a reminder, and then we'll send out another reminder about a week before it closes on the 14th, around the 14th of February. So right now, we talked about this before, but this kind of proof and point, there's a flurry of applications right before it closes. So when I say that we have 3 completed applications, you go, wow, that's not very many. Well, actually, at this point in the search, we've done many searches where we haven't had any applications at this point and ended up with many more at the end. So don't be too upset the fact that we have 3. But I wanted to go through this with that in mind, and the idea that we have over 6 weeks to go before the position closes, and a lot can happen in that 6 weeks. So the applications right now, we have 3. We have a couple from Washington State and one from Alaska. A couple of those are experienced superintendents. So you're going to have experienced superintendents in your pool. Some from districts very similar size or maybe a little smaller than Mount Baker is. So I said before, we sent out 104 applications and brochures to people all over, and we'll go over who they went to in a second. But that's a lot of applications and brochures to send out. All 3 of us split it up evenly, and we sent them out. We've had a lot of responses back, some positive, some saying no, and that's okay. I mean, that's just part of how it works with this sort of thing. So the applications we sent out to 17 current Washington State superintendents that are currently acting as superintendents in our state. We sent it out to 16 out-of-state superintendents from the states of Oregon, California, Montana, Wyoming, Illinois, Idaho, Iowa, and Alaska. So a lot, wide net we're throwing out. It's not just in Washington State. Former superintendents, we sent out, in consultants, 14. Washington, we sent them out to people in international schools, Alaska, Oregon, Arizona, and Utah. So 14 for people that have either been former soups or interim soups or consultants. Current Washington assistant soups, and that's usually the biggest pool that we have that would want to come to a superintendent position. We sent out to 38 assistant superintendents and directors in our state, which is a large number. Out of state assistant soups and directors, we sent them to 9. We sent them to Canada, to the Department of Defense, Oregon, Utah, Washington, D.C., New Mexico, and California. We have 8 principals that we send applications and brochures to from Washington, Alaska, California, Oklahoma, and Colorado. We have 2 others that kind of fit in their own kind of category. You have one that went to a board member from another district. And another one that does labor relations. It's involved in labor relations in another state. So we have 2 that are other. Out of the 104, we have 29 that are female and 75 that are male. That's usually about a normal breakdown. Although I think I mentioned before, we are placing probably more female applicants as superintendents now than we have with the male. And Ferndale is a good example of that. Doctorate, 27 of these 104 have their doctorate. And 11 of the 104 are minority. So the last part is we started an online survey when we first opened up the job and you hired us. We've got that going out. We have 96 responses right now from your community, which is pretty good. We're hoping to get around 150 to 200. So we need to really push that, and then Tammy's going to help us with that, I know, and get the word out and get it out through your schools, get it out into your community, your staff, your students, get it out to students and that, and have it with that. So we haven't had any response in Spanish yet, and we may not, I don't know. So this report overall is a good report. I mean, you should feel pretty good about the number of applications we've sent out, the responses we've had so far. I think you'll have a good pool for you to look at as a board and to make some calls on with that. So I think it's probably positive to say that this is a good, we're at a good spot right now, and we will continue to contact people, to call people, to reach out to people. Weekly, daily, I had 2 people contact me yesterday that were wanted to have an application that read about it or heard about it from other states. So word's getting out. It's not just a local search; it's an international, national search going out everywhere. So, questions on that?
Any particular order?
Just shoot, yeah.
Okay. So the people that you sent out specifically, how did you know who they were? What was their, we deck somewhere, or like what?
Probably 3/4 of these people that we know already, that we keep a database, and we've done a number of searches, Linden, Ferndale, around this area, but all over the state. We keep a database, and we will send, we just don't send them out to anybody, but if we think they may be a good fit or maybe might be interested in Mount Baker, we send them to them personally. And we also call them. We also personally call them. And that's probably, half of them we will personally call out of those 104. So some are new. Some just kind of pop out of the abyss, and then some of them are pretty strong candidates too. That kind of surprise us too. So, but right now
Why would that surprise you?
No, it doesn't. It surprises us that we don't already know who they are.
Oh,
That's what I meant. Not that they're. I didn't mean that they wouldn't want to go to Mount Baker. So we always get surprises. Yeah.
We get tips from our colleagues, other Northwest Leadership Associates, say, hey, you guys ought to think about this person for Mount Baker.
That's good. Yeah. And we've got
Pretty good network.
We got a good network going on.
So we've got a screening meeting on the 26th.
Yeah, we'll cover that in our, as we go through this.
Sure.
Yeah, Wayne's gonna talk about that a little bit. Any questions on the report though, itself?
So about 75% are ones you sent out to people who you already know. The other quarter are people who got in touch with you and asked for an application, or?
Yeah, through either the WASDA website, through the WASA website, through our own website, and it goes out to the Hispanic website with the Wallace group. So we've got a pretty wide net that it goes out to, and they pick it up off of that. But there's no search that doesn't go nationally, internationally anymore. People will be searching online, and I put it out. I belong to LinkedIn. I put that out through LinkedIn and got a number of responses back from LinkedIn and do that. So. Yeah, that's how the other province. 25%.
Okay.
We get, yeah.
We sometimes get a little bump right after winter break too.
Hmm.
You know, people have had a chance to think about it, talk to their family, that kind of stuff, so. See what happens.
Yeah, you've had a number of people come into your district and drive around, take a look, talk to people, that sort of thing. And we encourage that. We want them to do that. We want them to know what they're getting as far as the district, as far as how geographically it works, different schools, where they're located and all that. So you get a good picture. We want them to have a
But be on the lookout for gold Cadillacs then.
Yeah. I wouldn't do that. I'll tell you a story sometime. Yeah. So, okay, so I'm gonna turn it over to Wayne from
Okay,
here.
I'll take the
and
next couple of items.
Go to the next,
So-
then Laurel.
So the job closes on the 21st. A couple days before the 21st, applications will have come in to Mark and Dennis Ray. And they'll kind of make sure they're complete and get them all in order, and we'll get them to you folks. Work with Tammy and set up a secure system so that you can click into it and access all the files. So you've got kind of from the 21st, maybe the 19th or 20th, when you start getting the applications, till the screening meeting on the 26th. So the screening meeting is really a very important, extremely important meeting. It'll be a special board meeting or a regular board, whatever you have, but it'll be an executive session where we'll present all the candidates. You'll have seen the files. We'll have vetted them. We'll have a summary kind of profile of all the 12, 15, whatever it is, applicants. We'll have all of our notes. We'll have made, our phone calls. We'll have Googled them and all of that kind of stuff. So we'll have thoroughly vetted them. We'll come present all the candidates. We don't just give you the top 9 or whatever it might be. You'll see them all and you'll decide who you're going to move forward through the process. So it's, and we got a couple ways to kind of help you get to consensus on that. And the thing that we always remind boards at the screening meeting is you're not hiring the superintendent tonight. You're figuring out who you're going to move forward. You're not voting, you're just reaching consensus to direct us to invite these people to interviews. The candidates will be told that once they're invited to the interview, their name becomes public. So it's kind of an extremely confidential conversation. You might tell us, these are the 6 that you think you want, maybe an alternate or 2, but until they accept the invitation, it's just a conversation. So we'll kind of move that along. But that's a really big deal, and we want you to be well prepared for it, and we'll come well prepared for it. Questions? John?
Wayne, could you go over the time of the schedule for when it closes on February 14th and the screening meeting?
21st.
What? 21st, yeah.
That's all right.
The online survey closes on.
Right. Oh, the online, yeah, I'm reading the wrong line here. Yes, 21st. So when would those, would the applications be ready for us to?
Usually we start getting them maybe like 5 days or so. They start really kind of coming in. And so as we get them and as Dennis and Mark get to look them over, we can get them to you. So I think
we could start
couple of days before the closing date. You'll get some, and then the rest of them, and you'll even get some, a couple of days after the closing date that just came in at the 11th hour. So we want to give you as much time, but you got a pretty good window. Sometimes that goes on a Friday and we're meeting the following Wednesday, and you've got a little more time than that. So I think you'll have plenty of time.
Yeah,
you kind of, I don't know what to extent you've done this before, but you get into kind of a rhythm of it, looking them over. You have your own look fors, and you've got the brochure, content that they're writing prompt, and you can kind of see, So it goes quicker than you'd think it would, but they submit a pretty hefty application packet by the time you've got, resume and application form, their statement in response to the items in the brochure, and then 3 to 5 letters of recommendation, which are a page or 2 each. So there's lots of material. I mean, the candidates that apply are really invested. I mean, they put a lot of work into it. Questions about the screening meeting? And then, so Tammy will have to advertise that as a board meeting, and it's executive session, no action to be taken.
What time?
Probably 6, whatever you
Probably
say.
whatever, the earliest you guys could get it,
Yeah,
get going. So
I mean, it seems like you're used to meeting at 6. I don't know if that works on that.
it's probably gonna take a couple hours.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Wayne mentioned 6, but you don't have to come up with 6. If there's 5 that you think are really, you really want to interview and learn, you can go with 5.
Sometimes there's a natural break.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have an alternate and sometimes you say, if somebody doesn't show up, we'll go with what we've got.
This is a question that I can understand why you might not be able to accommodate. But is it possible to see an example, not of our actual pool, but what a really stellar application looks like? Because I think sometimes when you start reading, you've got a sense of, oh, this is really good. And then you read 5 more and you go, oh, maybe that wasn't so good. These ones are even better,
Yeah,
right? And to sort of have one that isn't actually applying to us, but that you guys would say, this is actually what a great application
We
looks like.
redact, we'd have to do a lot of redaction,
Yeah.
but we could do that.
And then we can look at that now and sort of have that as an idea of, like a baseline of what a
That's a good
good one
idea.
looks like.
That's a really
Yeah,
good
that's,
idea.
that's good.
We've never had that brought up.
Kind of
before.
like a
That's really good.
normative, right? Like,
Yeah, no, that's a good baseline to work from, because you're right, boards oftentimes will tell us, well, I read the first one and it just blew me away, but then I got to the second and third one and maybe the first one wasn't as good, sort of thing. But if you have a baseline to work from, I think that does help.
and
Yeah.
to know sort of what's possible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of these candidates are going to be impressive.
Mhm.
And it's outside of our fields of expertise, and so sometimes you can get starry-eyed.
Well, that's where our vetting really helps you. We can really help you, and we can do as much help as you want in terms of, we can actually put them into different categories, A, B, and C
Mhm.
for you. And with the C recommendation being, we don't think these people are really up to the level you need as a superintendent. And then the A's, we really think you need to talk to these people, and then the B's are maybe. So, but I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we can do that.
That would be helpful.
I personally do, we've done that in the past. I do like having, okay, these are the ones you really need to look at. You can read all the rest. If you see something that we don't see, fine and dandy, but I think having your expertise to
Yeah, thank you.
to sort the wheat from the chaff at the initial level is useful.
You'd be surprised how, it's not that difficult to get to consensus on the top 6. The cream kind of rises to the top. You'll have 3 or 4 will be almost automatic. Everybody will agree. And then you spend most of your time talking about the next 2, something like that. Usually goes pretty well.
Yeah, it does. It's a great exercise for you as a board to reach consensus on. It's really-
So then, after at the end of the screening meeting, like I say, you'll reach consensus as to who you're gonna move forward. And then we invite them, to confirm that. We actually spend some time prepping them, let them know what to expect. What the interview's gonna look like, all of that, answer all their questions. We want them to be at their best. We don't tell them the answers to the questions, but we prepare them pretty well. We want them to make a good representation of themselves. So the preliminary interviews, so we'll get them here, we'll set up a schedule, a couple of days before the interview, which are on March 8th. A couple of days before that, we'll announce the schedule. We'll have everybody confirmed, have the logistics worked out in terms of where and what time it's gonna start and how many of them there's gonna be and that sort of thing. The day starts about maybe 8 o'clock or 8:30 for you guys. Maybe the first interview is at 9. We usually just schedule them on the hour, so 9, 10, 11. We usually do 4, if we're doing 6, we'll do 4, take a short lunch break or a lunch break, and then we'll do 2 afterwards. And that works out pretty well because after the 6th interview, if there's 6, then you've got to deliberate and pick your next 3. So that you've got to allow some time. So the day will be set up with, I think we did it in this room last time, Russ, is that right? I think it was.
Yeah,
I
we,
think we did
preliminaries.
preliminary in the library.
no.
I'm not sure, doesn't, you
Well,
can
you can do it
decide.
in the library too.
We have a little more space there for the public.
I can remember distinctly that we did them in here, and we had the community behind us, but the library might be better.
Yeah,
And I think we did the final.
We did the
maybe
final.
we did the final in
Yeah,
the
in the
library.
library.
We did a community meeting in the finalists in
Yeah.
library, yeah. But you can do them like, it's up to you where you want.
Yeah,
So
well,
the-
we look at both, consider both spaces. and see
What we
what's
do,
easier.
say the first interview's at 9 o'clock. We have the candidate come at 8:30. Get them settled in, make sure they're here on time. Go over the process with them a little bit. We like to have the contract ready to go so that we can show the semifinalists what the contract's gonna be. And we spend some time with them, getting them ready for their interview, and then we leave them alone with the interview questions. And we've sent you a copy of draft. Russ has received a copy of some potential interview questions.
Yeah, I think, and I sent that around, I
Yeah, we
forwarded
got
the
it.
rest
Yeah,
of
you guys can work those over. We found that 11 or 12 questions, 50-minute interview really works out about right. And the first question, they spend a little more time on, that kind of gets them started. And then you get down through it, and some of them are they're not quite as elaborate as some of the others. But it works out pretty well with that number of questions. So if you say we missed the boat on one of our potential questions and you want to insert a question, you might want to think about pulling a question or something like that. It'll work out fine. We'll want to have a timekeeper, somebody that's probably not a board member, not one of us, because we're kind of working the thing. If Tammy's available to do that, or if you've got somebody else that can be there all day and help out with the time, and we want to cue them when they've got 20 minutes left, 10 minutes left, and 5 minutes left, so they can manage their time. Most of them are pretty good at it, not always. Sometimes they need a little more structure than that. And then you kind of want to give them an opportunity to ask you questions toward the end of the interview. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. That's more of an opportunity. Usually the board president welcomes them, gets them started, and asks the first question, and then you just go around the table. So 6 interviews, you'll ask the same question or two each time, and it moves along pretty nicely. You wanted to have interviews in open session. So we'll need a process where the people that are observing the interview can fill out a Google survey or something on each candidate. And we've done it enough times now where we've got some pretty good systems, and we can get some help from some other districts if somebody needs some examples. But it's a pretty straightforward survey. And then we want to turn that around at the end of the last interview so that you get a chance to read the input from people as you deliberate before you get too far into deliberations. So we'll need to work with Tammy a little bit and get that all set up so that system works. That's a little different than what we did last time. A little refinement. Questions about the preliminary interviews?
And it'll be a long day, I gotta warn you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a full day.
Exercise in the morning.
And
9 to 4.
or it could be 8 to 3. Yeah, depends on how you wanna do it.
We usually call the first, we call the people that are furthest away and give them their choice of the time slot. So that they've got some, if they're gonna drive that day, they might want a later time slot. If they're gonna come the night before, they might want an early time slot so they can get home. So we kind of done that.
Yeah. If you have key communicators in the district that are, that you want them to attend, invite them to attend to this. It's a long day for them too. I mean, for the people that come in. But if you have people that are committed to being here they can be teachers, they can be students, they can be parents, and community members, please invite them. I mean, this is an open public meeting, and you want to, I know as a board, you want to get as much input as you can. So, and you also have the online surveys to go on too. So you'll get those after the 14th. So you'll have those. So you'll have a little bit of homework to do.
Questions about preliminary? Go ahead.
Jump with that.
Okay.
Do you all have any experience with districts reserving some of the interview questions to be given by different stakeholder groups? So for instance, you might have your teachers generate a question that they would like to see answered, and the students generate a question that they want to see answered. And I ask that because I think that also creates buy-in for people that come and watch and hear how they respond to that
You mean in the
question.
preliminary questions?
In the interview question.
Well, they do that in the final.
They do
Yeah,
it in the finals? We
we've
do
done
that in
that,
the finals?
yeah, each.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll talk about that in a second.
okay,
The thing I would wonder about.
Yeah.
Is if you invite somebody to suggest a question and then for some reason you don't use it. You've just added some complexity with not much return on investment. So I'd think about it, but it's, I think it's a nice thing to think about. And they do, as Mark said, when they come around for the finalists, people can ask their questions.
so there would be an
That's
opportunity for
interactive.
that.
And they-
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
there
The
will.
preliminary
That
interview,
means that there's
Well,
an opportunity for
And
that.
it gets back to who's making the call on all this thing. You know, I just cut through the cheese here a little bit. You guys are making the call on who you're gonna hire as a new superintendent. So the questions we recommend come from the board. And then when the finalists come through, then the individual groups, the students, they'll meet with the students, they'll meet with the staff, they'll meet with the community. They'll have a chance to ask those questions at that time.
Yeah, if I remember right,
That makes sense.
you brought each finalist
Yeah,
to
that's,
meet at each school.
we do, and so that leads right into me. That, after you have your three folks that we line up, they come in the next week on the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th. Each candidate spends a whole day in your district. And we organize it with whatever groups of people you want them to meet with, and that's where they get to ask questions of the candidates. The candidates can ask different questions of the audience. We also have feedback forms for all those groups that can give you their 2 cents or 3 cents worth on each candidate. We go into a night meeting as well for each candidate, and we have questions that get posed to the candidates from your public. So they'll run all day. It's a long day. Just, start 8 o'clock and run all the way to the evening and meet with student groups, teacher groups, principals, your public, your leaders, whoever you would like organized, and we repeat that for each candidate.
So on those, the public questions, do you usually run that now with a written question where they write out the question and
we'd
then
like to have them submit them
Yeah.
submit it
earlier in
either
the week.
ahead of time
For the community,
or at that time? For the community, yeah.
yeah, not necessarily for,
Not for
Like
the
the
staff
teachers
meeting,
can come up
no,
with-
but I'm talking about
Right.
the general community.
Right.
Yeah, usually there's a communication that goes out that says, here's the schedule. I'd like you to provide input to the board in this important decision, and you have an opportunity to submit questions. And then, somebody goes over the questions a little bit, we refine them, and then one of us will pose the question to the candidate during the community forum.
and you're there to observe that.
Yeah.
Just the community piece, so you don't need to be there during the day, it's just that community.
And it's really
Okay.
powerful. Those individual, the whole day is powerful because we involve our students, and you'll involve your principals and PTA boosters, whatever groups you want to put together,
Cabinet,
cabinet.
I just want to comment, I'm good. But I do, while the board makes the decision, I want as much
sure.
input for as many stakeholder groups, because they have expertise and understanding and a nuanced take on what we need in that role, and I want to hear that. I want people to have an opportunity
You
to
will hear
hear
it.
that.
No,
Yeah.
You'll hear it.
You're gonna get a lot of.
We'll get a lot of input.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Tell you a scheduling issue that has directly to do with that. March 8th is our FFA auction. And FFA, as we all know, is very defining for our community. And that is when all of those. The auction doesn't start until 4:30, but FFA advisors and the involved kids and the involved parents are all going to be busy that entire day. So you're not gonna have any FFA people involved at that community day. So I'm wondering if Zoom is available that we could watch later, and if that survey would be open later, that we could answer. So I don't want our voice to be lost in that.
No, well, maybe we can work.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
And
No.
way to figure that out.
That's our day we make $40,000, so we
Yeah,
probably should.
we'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, that's just a voice
That's
to
a
count.
that's a good heads up.
I had a suggestion, just kind of a high level suggestion for our interview questions. So my thought is that our questions should reflect our values and priorities, and that the actual order of the questions should reflect the order of our priorities. So for example, leadership's pretty important, because if you don't have leadership, so you start off with the leadership questions. Education is the next, I think, highest priority. I'm just going to make suggestions on what I think they could be correct. Education, the financial aspect of it, and then communication. And so if you kind of grouped the questions, you could have, one board member say, we're going to ask you questions related to leadership, education, finances, communication, and maybe be a little bit more one continuality there.
You get a wide range of questions, because the people are submitting questions on the things that are really important to them. And it might be something about.
No, sorry, I'm
food
talking
services.
Oh, you're talking about the formal one where they're asking.
When you do the preliminary.
list.
The preliminary
six.
questions.
Yeah.
I think you
The
can group them.
contents here, just maybe reorganizing it.
Sure,
Okay.
you guys can do what you want with
Yeah.
those.
And use your
They're your
brochure.
questions.
They're your question, that's what I was saying, those are your questions. The other ones are gonna be the input ones.
Okay.
And
So you can do that.
I wanted to send this out now so that you had a chance to kind of look at, and we don't have to decide on these questions at this meeting, but kind of mull it over and think, is this capturing the whole range of what we would like to capture? Is there something else we'd like to add? And hence something we would fall off the list. And then we can revisit that at a later meeting and say, okay, let's shape it just a little bit.
Are these questions are we discussing this as part of an open board meeting, or is that part of an executive session?
Which ones?
The
So-
semi-finalist interview.
Here's how it works with boards. Russ will coordinate this. Your input is sent to Russ, and Russ will give them to us. We'll reword the questions, or we reorder the questions, however you want to do it. And then it goes back to you again, and then we go, kind of like we did with the brochure, remember? It goes-
Yeah, right.
goes through.
A little too much back and
It
forth.
goes, but it goes back and forth till you can all come to consensus, but it's done through Russ. It's not done at really in a
It's
meeting.
offline.
It's
You're not
done-
voting.
You're not doing any, there's no voting going on here or anything, so you can do this online. You don't need to do this, publicly. And it probably wouldn't be a good idea, because there may be a candidate watching
Well,
this
yeah.
right now.
That was my question.
We need to
If
talk
the
a little bit
questions are
about the
held
board's session
until-
with the candidates.
Yeah, and so as we meet with each of your top 3 folks, they will run through the whole day, you'll eat dinner with them. Then they'll go to the public session with your public and answer all those questions, and we'll come back and debrief.
The final interview.
And after they've interviewed, and then we'll be here talking that through with you, and then we go right back to the next day. They go back through the whole schedule, they eat dinner with you, they go out and visit with the public, then we come back and debrief.
The
They do a
debrief
final
is a
interview.
final interview with the board.
They do a final
Oh,
interview.
yeah.
And that's an executive session. So
After
you
the
can ask
public,
whatever
Right.
questions.
after the public, they come back and debrief.
And then we debrief after that.
We usually set aside 45 minutes or so after the community forum, take a short little break, and then you've got your time with each of the candidates.
So you've seen them at dinner, seen them at the public meeting, and then you come back and get to ask them more questions, and then you get to debrief again.
And you get the input all day.
And that public meeting is the one you want questions beforehand by the public. So at what point will we send that date out for the public to know and where? Because we obviously want to give them enough time to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
there.
they need a good week.
Yeah, I would say
maybe
a week.
more.
And we also, we don't, if somebody wants to walk in the door, we all have 3x5 cards or something that people can write them down.
Mhm.
We go with that too. So, yeah, but we usually.
You'll get a lot of duplication Because people have the same things on their mind and they don't know who's submitting what, so there'll be lots of questions.
And
about
we would
special
post that
education.
date on our website, or how, what would the public be, where would the public be looking for that? date?
However way you communicate with your public, which is usually on your website or Facebook or TikTok or however. you
Keep communicating.
And we, reader boards,
Reader boards,
Yeah.
letters,
Newsletter.
principal newsletters, yeah.
I'll probably, this is a Word document, I'll probably work on something and send it to you with some ideas,
Yeah.
just to use this content as a basis for
Yeah, you guys
structure.
share how you want to organize it. And don't dig too deep with the wordsmithing, but there may be some wording that you want to put in there that you think, and look back to what you put together in your brochure. Make sure we tried to address these questions to address what was on your brochure.
These are the questions that were used during the process in another district last year. So, I mean, they kind of went through a process like this to get to these questions, but that doesn't mean they're your questions. Different issues or different wording or whatever you want. We're not too invested in, we want them to be your questions.
Yeah, this is just a starting point.
Yeah.
And
When we come back on the 26th too, and work through the screening, if you have more questions for us or anything you wanna.
yeah,
Other
and
we can do
we'll work
that.
actually,
At that screening meeting, we'll really lock into what the preliminary.
Make sure we're all on the same page.
Daniel, and we'll work on that. We'll have that ready for you here before those applications, you take a look at those applications.
but
Great idea.
the questions as a whole are designed to, with a lot of experience to cover basically what the role of superintendent is. So, it's definitely gives us a good reference point to go with, and then we can look to see if we want to fine tune it.
And there are different interviewing styles, right? So ordering the questions based on our values, ordering the questions to let the candidates put their best foot forward, ordering the questions to see how they handle pressure,
Sure.
right? There are different ways that you can think about how you want to do that.
Yeah, it's a great discussion, just to make sure we go into it eyes wide open and what our
priorities are.
Yeah. And which of those we're following, right?
Yeah. And the way it's set up is that you'll know right away how much homework they've done and how much they know about your district. And that's what you want. You want to know what they know about your district. And what is.
You're looking for the fit.
And then you're looking for the fit here. It's the right fit. Or your interest that they may be the right fit. Okay, so finalist interview process, we talked about that. Logistics, I think we talked about the applications going to the board and when you'll have those and what that looks like. We do need to have a real firm grasp of what the salary is before the preliminary interviews, and we need the contract to be approved by you before that. So we can give that to the semifinalists. They'll have a copy to take a look at. So when we get to the very end, when we make our announcement on the 14th, you will know that the three finalists, they will know what the contract looks like, what the salary will be. So there's no last minute haggling. This is all taken care of with us working with the candidates. So, and one of the worst ways for a superintendent to get off on a job is to say, I'll take the job, but I want 10,000 more. No, this is what you're going to get. This is what your contract's like. This is what this will be like. And we really think that's important. And we've in our searches, we've learned that over the years that, this is what you're going to get. And this is where you're at. If you want to negotiate your salary or your contract, you do it after you have been in the district for a year.
So when do you envision us working together to discuss and finalize the contract?
Well, you'll need to do that in the next 6.5 weeks.
Sooner better than later.
Sooner is better, yeah.
So I'm assuming that you would provide your recommendation for.
Well, we have a copy of the contract, the previous superintendent contract. And we can make recommendations if you like, yes.
Yeah, I think that would, we would discuss a contract in executive session
Yes.
as a contract, but I think looking at what we have and providing your wisdom alongside that would be very useful for us as we look to see, do we keep this, do we change this? And so I think that would be useful before we have an executive session to really hone in on the contract.
Yeah, we can do that.
As well as, we talked about a salary range, and I'd like to get more specific.
Yeah, that's what
Your
We need to be
recommendation.
more
we
specific.
need to lock in.
Yeah,
A little more,
And then there's the other terms of the contract.
it's base salary and then there's also other parts that go with that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we'd be happy to do that. You bet. Okay, is there anything else that you want to ask about? It's going smoothly, folks. It's really going smoothly, and then you're going to have a good pool to choose from, and like Wayne says, it's all about the right fit for Mount Baker, the right fit for your community. And along with that, of course, goes the right qualifications, but you've got to look for the right fit. Who's going to be the best fit for what you need. So, and you've already kind of put together what you need, and you'll get a lot of input from people telling you what you need.
I want to make sure you get that
That's what you
input.
want.
That's what
I know that about your input after each of the finalists, the three finalists, you get that input at that evening as it comes in, and so you can read it next day, stuff will come in, but you'll get it as you go, so by the time the 13th rolls around, it's the last candidate, you still get all that information, so you can make really good decisions based on all of that.
A lot of people hold their opinions
Mhm.
until they see all three
All three.
candidates.
Mhm.
So after the third candidate, you really kind of get a sense of what people are looking for. You'll get people lobbying you throughout that week. They know where to find you.
Wonderful.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for
Yeah,
having
thank
us.
you.
See everyone.
We'll see you soon.
Okay. Our next is board comments, and start with you this time, Jason.
I started last time.
Oh. Well,
No, I'm
you
fine.
wanna
I'm
start
fine.
then this- Okay, let's start with you because.
Maybe you should start in the middle.
You pushed the last
Oh,
one.
yeah. We need to get Nick. Hold on.
Thank you.
It was a pretty good one. It was a pretty
Yeah,
good
let's do this.
That's a good idea. Yeah, she's a rock star.
Hi.
Howdy. Okay, so we're gonna start with Danielle, comments from the board.
I wanted to loop back for a moment to the student voices that we heard this evening and make an additional comment that part of the reason why hearing from students is so powerful is because the impacts that we see are on their lives. It's not just that they're seeing firsthand and having the expertise of knowing what the impacts are, but the stakes are high for them. The stakes are highest for our students that are having their education and their future impacted, and the power of students who are willing to take their time to go and advocate, knowing that they will never reap the benefits of that advocacy, and that they're doing that as a gift to the students coming up behind them. That's what gives them that ethos, that credibility. It's that they're the ones who are potentially damaged by the choices that our legislators are making. They aren't just 20 teacher positions, right? It's their future. This is our students' future. And I have a soft heart for this community, part because I grew up here and went to school here, we speak here. But also because our community needs strong advocates. Our community needs strong advocates. We have a lot of students who don't have the same opportunities that students in other districts get by way of financial support that sort of trickles down to them in their community. And our students are at risk for being disproportionately impacted by budget cuts. And so that's been on my mind. Sometimes that extra labor of fighting for the right thing lands on the people who are most hurt by it, and it's not right. But it's really inspiring when people make the choice to fight for what's right, even when it's harming them. So that's my comment for tonight.
So I attended the town hall as well. I felt the testimony was really powerful. And there's good information there, I think, for the public on the process for school funding and the challenges there. I do wish there would have been a little bit more participation or interaction allowed from the general public. You know, maybe that was done for efficiency, but there was no way to really ask questions. I know when we did the Mount Baker listening sessions, people could make public comments, which was hard, but that also, I think, helped put us on the track that we're on now and made some real changes. And I wish that our reps could have heard from the general public, as uncomfortable as that might be, including for me. I just, I don't have any confidence that the state leaders who got us into a $12 billion deficit are going to be able to fix that while properly funding education. And one example is I think we have too many state legislators who prioritize climate change solutions over education. And I also, I don't see that changing until we elect new people. So I wish I could be more optimistic. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we come out of this next legislative selection and we have the problems fixed. But right now, not feeling very optimistic about that. On that note, just related to the upcoming budget process, I was really involved with that last year. Russ and I were, and budget development, and not really as involved this year. And I feel like I lost track of this process and understanding what's going on there. So it might be nice to get some type of outline of important dates and mile markers and what can affect things. Obviously, there's a lot of balls in the air. Student enrollment, the legislative session, all those things. We just don't know, but we could quantify that and still have something for myself and others to look at to kind of understand what that process looks like. Okay. Last up, a few weeks ago, you all made me the WIAA rep. And about that time, I saw an article in the Cascadia Daily about an amendment for upcoming WIAA. I reached out to Director Kush Barr from the Linden School Board to get more details. And she sent me, I guess she sent us all a note here. She said, I'm writing to request your attention to an important matter at hand for every school board in Washington State. There are 20 school districts across the state: Linden, Blaine, Mansfield, Lake Chelan, Cashmere, Oakmac, Grand Coulee, Brewster, Orville, Okanagan, Linden Christian, Eastmount, Meade, Central Valley, Kennewick, Colville, Nasket, Thorpe, and Moses Lake that have acted to save girls' sports. I'm attaching a small action item that your district can safely take to voice a reason on this issue. It's a board resolution that is legally non-binding and does not change your district policy in any way. Rather, it voices your support to other school districts' efforts for our daughters. I'm hoping you have in you to do at least as much, since there are other districts that are leading the fight. Feel free to edit the document as needed, but please make sure that you support WIAA Amendment 7 and 8 set forth by the listed school districts. The amendments are stated in document 7, states categories open and girls for biological girls only, states, and the number 8 states 3 categories, boys, girls open. Feel free to get more information on savegirlsportswa.com. And as your WIA rep, I'm hoping that we can discuss and vote on some type of resolution in support of a girls-only division as based on sex, and to do so soon enough that it will make a difference. There's a debate coming up on Jan 27th, and then there's an April vote by WIAA. In my own conversations with people I know to be fairly liberal on many social issues, many do support a girls-only sports division. So I'm a little bit curious if our board would support such a resolution. Shortly, we are going to be discussing a board resolution urging Washington State legislator to address K-12 funding. I expect that resolution to pass unanimously. At the time that we vote, we won't know if our elected representatives will do what we are asking them to do, or what laws need to be changed to make our wish come true. We are simply letting the state know how we feel. A resolution in support of girls-only sports division could be similar in that we would simply be letting our state leaders and WIAA know our opinion for whatever that is worth. I have a copy of the resolution here. I'll pass them out, and then I'll have some spare copies up here in case anybody wants them. That's it for my portion.
Thank you.
Thank
Brenda?
So I've been working on the superintendent mid-year evaluation, and you're sick, don't feel bad. So I'm gonna send it out tomorrow, and I'm shooting to have executive session at the next meeting, so if you guys can fill it out and then get it back to me by next Friday. And then I'll kind of put it all together, and then we'll go into an executive session and put it together how we want it done, and then present it by the 31st to Nick for the mid-year evaluation. So that is the plan. It's way shorter than the old ones. So I did want a whole new direction with it, focusing more on our priorities, looking at finance and staff and community relations. So that's where most of the focus is on, giving feedback on that, and that's the direction I took on that. So you'll see it tomorrow, and we'll send it out and get it back to me. That'd be great.
Jason?
I don't have much. It's been quite a while. I did meet with Nick and Brian to grasp quite a bit of knowledge and did quite a bit of research on some state side of things for the CMAR clinic, and for that, we could talk about that when it comes up. We'll talk about it now. And another thing, kids' involvement, they spoke, that was great. And I don't know how many people do it, but we've been the last 3 home basketball games at halftime have been like the little kids, different age groups out there. And that's pretty cool. They get pretty pumped up, and I like seeing that, and that Mount Baker Sports has a long grasp of people starting at a young age. So that's good. That's cool to see. They were last night with Danielle had one out doing it, and it was pretty cool. So that's all I got.
Thank you. So I've got several things here. First of all, following up on the Little Lily timber sale, I think last meeting I mentioned that there'd been an appeal against that timber sale filed in Whatcom County Court, which, if it were to be successful, we would lose our almost $450,000 revenue that we're slated to receive from that sale. So I spoke with representatives from American Forest Resource Council, from the Department of Natural Resources, and from Sierra Pacific, which is the purchaser of that sale. And as a result of those conversations, American Forest Resource Council offered to help Mount Baker School District with an amicus brief for that court action in Whatcom County. So Nick and I met with the chief counsel of American Forest Resource Council and an assistant attorney, and I felt a really great meeting. I've worked with them for years, and they were actually they were the ones that did most of the legal work for us on the Lake Whatcom watershed plan, which resulted in a $1.2 million settlement in favor of Mount Baker School District from the legislature, the county, and the city of Bellingham. So, and it was such a good, such good work that they had done for us that the judge in Skagit County was overseeing the case had ruled in our favor, and the other parties decided to settle it because they could see they were going to lose. So I say that just to kind of give a little background of the kind of work they do. They just recently helped me with a state issue that on a land exchange that the DNR was doing, and opposed by most of the political figures in Spokane County and 85 environmental groups across the state. And we were successful at getting the Board of Natural Resources to stand up with that. And their brief that they supplied for me basically was, I think, really brought it over the top. So I speak highly of them there. So and that would be pro bono. So we would have no cost. And so timing will be dependent on the move, the pace of the case and other work they have to do. So expect that anytime. And so when we do get that, I'll bring it back to you, and Nick and I will go over it and
I've run it by our general counsel as well, and they're in support of this process. And there's no specific steps we need to take ahead of time for the development of the amicus brief. Once it is written, that'll be when the board votes to turn that amicus brief in. But we don't need to sign an agreement with AFRC. We're just good to go. And I will reiterate what Russ said. I was very impressed with that group of folks, with that group. It seems like a great organization.
Yeah. And I will add, it is pro bono, and about the only thing they're asking from us, we may need to help them with some facts and figures so that they can kind of flesh out the case. However they develop it, But that'll be, Nick and Brian, I'm sure can do whatever's necessary for developing that part of it, but it's basically the lawyer's part. So,
So when do we get the money?
well, so the money, so the money is separate from so the lawsuit is just to protect the sale. If we're successful in having the court deny the appeal, then the sale goes through. Then it's up to the purchaser, which in this case is CR Pacific, to decide when it's to their benefit over a 2-year time window that they have to harvest. So that's entirely up to them, and it has to do with markets. It has to do with how many other logs they have to supply their sawmill. So that's out of our hands, but we know it'll be sometime within that 2-year time window. Once, and I suppose the time window probably starts after the appeal is denied. So this appeal delays the onset of the time window. So I met with Senator Sharon Shoemake, discussed the school financing, the big threes, its impact on Mount Baker School District. And I encourage you to each, take a copy of this one and let's see, I think this one. And then we also have a couple other documents that we were passing out at the.
We had the mailer that went home, just the updates.
Okay, the mailer, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you had, do we have the MSOC?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so and then tonight we're considering a resolution and a letter that goes along with it. And so I think that's the other two I was thinking, combining all those four, that arms you for any conversations you have with the facts that we really need to get out. And we'll make sure that you guys have all of those documents too. In fact, you should be able to go away from this meeting with it be approve the resolution.
And they're on the website and we document their town hall.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's and then I also because discussed binding conditions with Sharon in quite detail and what it's going to take for us to both, Mount Baker to what we've gone through the process, but the rest of the districts within the 42nd legislative district are. I think the cloud's hanging over the top of everyone. And so I think the legislators need to know that if they don't address these funding gaps, we're not going to be the only ones that are screaming. And so I think that was and then I also went over a number of DNR related issues, which also impacts our local timber revenue. She's going to be chair of the Senate Energy Committee. She was going to be chair of Natural Resources, but both of those opened up. She switched to energy, but she's also continues on the Senate Natural Resources Committee, which oversees the DNR. So there's going to be some issues there that, particularly with the call to not harvest what they call the legacy forests, which are the forests in Mount Baker School District that would provide our local timber revenue for about the next 15 years, 10 to 15 years. So that's a pretty important discussion there. At Blaine Town Hall, we talked about that extensively, and you expressed some skepticism that the legislators should solve the problem. And I wrote down here, if you're wrong, Ed, it will be because of the students' voice. Because I think you're right that the mood that the legislators have had going into the session is not really thinking they're going to solve school funding problems. I mean, that's what I'm getting back. But but the pressure that comes from the public and particularly from students, from parents, might help them reevaluate that. And that's a kind of our goal is to help reevaluate those priorities. I think the resolution, either the resolution or the letter that we're discussing here in our board action items pointed out the shift since 2019, pre-pandemic spending till now of K-12 education being 52% of the state budget in 2019, now being 47%, I believe. 46 or 47.
43.1.
Yeah.
And so that shift alone is quite significant. Anyway, I did review the mid-year evaluation, Brent. Thank you so much. And I think that's going to simplify it. It's getting to the point, and so we'll get that back to you. I think that's all I have here. Next is interlocal agreement with the board action items, interlocal agreement with Whatcom County Health Department. Nick, if you could address that.
Yeah, so this is an amendment to the agreement we'd already had with Whatcom County Health Department to use capital funds coming from the State Department of Health to help upgrade spaces to create the temporary school-based health clinic. And the change in the amended part of the contract is changing the terms in which we can get this work done. So we now have more time to spend the money, as well as the scope of the work. Before it was pigeonholed with just the work on the temporary space, but now we can use funds of the 30,000 to help any kind of build out that we may need in a permanent space. So far, we've used about $10,000 of the 30,000 to reduce some work in the current school-based health clinic where we have it now. So like I said, the big changes are the length of time and then opening the scope of what the funds are available for.
So, questions, comments?
Yeah, I'll talk just a little bit about it. I voted against it on the last meeting just to grasp a little bit more. Brian was great of explaining a lot to it, and the 10-12, the deficit the state has, one big thing is it's their capital is looking pretty good. That's where this money is going to come from. So it doesn't make sense, like our problems. It doesn't make sense that the capital can be doing so good when the school is struggling. It's the same as the state. The capital is not bad, right? And that's where this money is coming from for this. So to grasp this, two different things helps. The other thing to remember, like Brian explained, and to me was a lot of this handful of this money is sitting at Whatcom County that they want to give to us. If we don't do it, then we don't, it's there for us, right? And then it's going to help us with some school improvements, making the clinic better. One thing was a heater that's not working, and it's going to help two separate spots of our school. It's going to help where the school-based clinic is going to be. It's going to help out here. And then if they do decide a good temporary or permanent spot and we have some money left over, we can start doing that. And if whatever, my biggest thing was, I said, with the $650,000 later, when we get the permanent spot going, I was scared that we were getting ourselves in a pickle, that we were going to start and then things were going to go bad and we were going to be having to come up with the money. And like Brian and Nick and told me that we would not start any of this unless we have the money from the state, unless we have that grant money, you want to call it. We're not going to start construction. And so we'll know that going in. And if we don't move forward going in with this going forward, we'll have the money that we've got to do our capital project upgrades for Mount Baker and the healthcare center, but Mount Baker School more than anything. So like I said, I voted against it last time and grasped my head around a lot, asked a lot of questions, did a lot of research, and I think it would be beneficial to us with getting money for these projects moving forward. I really do think it's a good thing. And I didn't vote no, because I don't think we need it for the kids. I don't want you to think I was when I left here, I kind of had that thought like, man, I hope people don't think I'm really cold hearted and did that because of that. It was just the budget thing scared me quite a bit. So, after getting that knowledge, I feel pretty good about it. And I'm glad Nick and Brian were able to explain that to me in a way that I could understand it. So that's my talk on it.
Well, thank you, Jason. Other thoughts?
I did talk to Ally today. She's she works for the health department. She's been working on this, and she reiterated what you said, is that it's just an amendment to a contract we've already approved and signed before. It's just adding more time and increasing the scope to include the architect. One thing I want to address about from Tony's letter with the thoughts of the community coming in right now, as of now, it is only for students, and it's no plans currently to add community members in when it's in its spot that it's in now. And nothing is set in stone. Even if we did get a giant one later on in 5-10 years, we don't have to allow the community into it either. That's something that is a board decision that would come at a later time. I think that it's really important for the students to get this. It's a huge trek into town on bus and a taxi. For a parent to take a day off of work to come to miss school, you're missing an entire day of school sometimes just to go to a doctor for a physical or, an antibiotic or something. So I definitely think that it's worth it to look into it. That money's there. It can't be used for anything else. We don't have to go further, but we have the opportunity to go further if we want to. And if we see that it's really helping our community of students, then that's what we're here for. That's what we're asking for.
And one thing I should have said, like Brian said, at one point moving forward with this, if it doesn't work, like the worst case is CMAR would just pull the contract with us and we would have a upgraded room, facility, closet,
Right.
whatever you may be at that time. We're not by any means putting ourselves in a situation that we have to move forward as years go on. So that's good to know. And then, like Nick said, for whatever reason, they amended it better for us. It gives us more leeway on how we can spend this money and what we can spend it on. So.
And she also said there's potential to rent the space to CMAR in the future, which is income to the school district too at that point. So I don't have much more information than that, but she just said that that's something that you can look at in the future.
Okay. I wrote a comment. Until recently, I've always voted yes for building the new SBHC on school property. Thinking it wouldn't interfere with our main job of teaching, but we've hit a big problem. We've recently found out that the state has a deficit between Brenda, did you do that?
No.
You did that. I know you did that. I have to admit, I have stock in roads and roads.
She gets things done, but.
Oh my God. All right.
Not free speech yet.
I'm gonna start over. All right. Until recently, I've always voted yes for building a new SBHC on our school property, thinking it wouldn't interfere with our main job of teaching. But we've hit a big problem. We've recently found out the state has a deficit between 10 to $12 billion over the next 4 years. If you think schools were underfunded when the state had a balanced budget, how underfunded do you think schools will be when the state has a $12 billion deficit to fix? Let's not kid ourselves about the challenge ahead of us. We should be anticipating that the state will actually be decreasing funding for schools as needed to fix the budget deficit. We are already seeing this happen. As Nick mentioned in his recent board update, Governor Inslee's new budget includes reducing teachers' pay. Our classrooms are overcrowded, our teachers are overworked, and if we keep pushing them, they'll look for jobs elsewhere, leading to a downward spiral for our education system. This news of the budget deficit came out right after the election, which feels like they hid it on purpose. Now spending $682,000 on this new building, including $32,000 for the study that we're voting on today, and $650,000 for building it, doesn't seem smart anymore. I'd be okay with having an SBHC if we could do it without spending taxpayer dollars, maybe by using what we already have. Yes, I want our kids, especially those who can't afford much, to get medical help and spend more time learning, but we're tight on money and we need to make sure our main job, teaching, gets the focus. Think about this. Almost half of every tax dollar goes to schools. If we spend tax dollars on a new SBHC, that's less money for books, teachers, and classrooms. In this case, if the state spends roughly $700,000 on a new SBHC building, that is $350,000 that's not going directly to fund K-12 education. We need to run our schools like a smart business, build great programs to make sure we keep attracting students to fill our classrooms. Spending $682,000 on a building that won't attract a single additional student to Mount Baker School District is not a good use of money. Prioritizing tax dollars for the construction of the SBHC clinic over district funding of education is exactly what we don't want to happen. So let's stop the SBHC construction project. Let's find a cheaper way to help our students' health without breaking the bank. We owe it to our taxpayers and our students to focus on education first. Thank you.
Any comments?
I have to go after.
Sorry.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you say again, one more time, to help me break this down in my head? What we're voting on with this resolution is to expand. Sorry, I'm having a mind blank.
The scope.
The scope of how we can spend dollars on something that we've already approved.
Yeah, so the board, yeah, that's correct. The board has already approved this interlocal agreement with the Whatcom County Health Department that was funded with funds from the state capital budget through the Washington State Department of Health. So right now it's sitting in the county coffers and it can't be used for anything else except for just us.
So the money that we're talking about is $30,000 that we're talking about tonight. Is money coming from a different budget pool than educational funding is coming through the Department of Health? And they're giving it to us as a grant to support a health-based initiative to help our students be at school more so they can focus on their education.
Without teachers. With cuts from teachers and teachers' pay.
So
this $30,000 is not from the same pot of money that would be available to go to education.
I mean, it depends on what level you, I guess.
Are looking at that with the
Sure.
legislature
Correct.
in mind.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I get.
Yeah, it's a
Yes,
capital
it's all tax
appropriation
dollars.
to the, yes, that's right, it's all tax dollars. It was a capital appropriation to the Department of Health. And so this is also, this is money from the biennium that's closing. So this isn't future biennium that they're about to start meeting on. This money's already been given to the county.
It's already sitting there. Okay. Sometimes it's hard to wrap my brain around it,
yeah.
right? And like with our budgets, right? We have capital money and we have,
Mhm.
you know, other pools of money and they
And
don't
we move money
necessarily.
sometimes to help one or the other.
You
remember?
can, but money that's
So
earmarked
much,
for
X
one
amount.
thing isn't
Yeah.
necessarily stealing from Peter to pay Paul.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. And so I think when we're talking about, they are all tax dollars,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
But this money has already been earmarked for the Department of Health. They're saying, we want to give it to you to upgrade the space that you're already using to provide services to students. This isn't about expanding into the bigger permanent build at this time. That's an issue that we can discuss on another night.
Mhm.
Okay.
Really, like I asked Brian, if we move forward with this right now, we're not committing ourselves to move forward with $650,000. I mean, they're gonna ask us for, right? And somebody's gonna come in and look at this facility and say, oh, I recommend you do this place if we get this, if you get this funding, I recommend you guys do to the 800 building, you redo the heat, you redo the windows, you remodel this section or wherever in here. Right? We're just committing ourselves moving forward with this money that is taxpayer money. Yes, it's how all this works from Whatcom County through the school district, you know, and it's sitting there. Brian drew a great picture for me. That's the only way I really got to understand it. And I wish I had a good way to show it because it really did make sense. Yeah.
I think one of the main differences between capital and operating funds are, you can't bond operating funds. The state can't run a deficit for operating funds, but they can for capital. So you can have long-term bonding for capital, and then you pay that back over many years in the future when. And that's basically how much of the capital expenditures are run. And we're paying back for stuff that was done 20 years ago or whatever now. But it's, so I think, you know, those are just like with the school district, two separate funds with, and I agree, there's some interlace, there's some interlap, but there's a couple other things that, you know, just from a broad sense, the board over time has continually urged our district administration to augment our funds through grant process. To do so, we have to understand, you know, we have to have that communication between the board and administration of what it is we're applying for and what we want to accomplish. And then, but then once we get to that understanding, they have to feel like we'll have their backs through the process. Otherwise, we lose our credibility as a grant requesting agency, so to speak. And I think that's, you know, not looking specifically at this particular instance, but I think if we need to maintain that level of credibility over time so that the best point, the real point, and I think there's something for the relationship between the superintendent and the board is before that grant process starts with any particular application. Let's, you know, getting our heads together and really understanding what it is what pathway we're taking.
Feels like I'm hearing two different things. I'm hearing we don't have to just do a little bit, we can stop later. We don't have to spend the 650,000, but then you're also
I'm not saying that.
I feel obligated to continue
Well,
through the process that we started.
I feel that we need credibility. So I guess I have a slightly different thing.
Okay.
You know, I agree that we can look at it and relook at it, but I'm just adding a point of caution for that relook. It's, we can, and we technically can, and if it makes sense at that time, we can do that. We have that authority, but approach it within that larger context. Some districts have, you know, we've done pretty good on grants in parts of our program. I think CTE's done really well. When Todd Reitmeyer, and actually I think he feels enough support from the district that he doesn't, I can't remember him asking us, you know, when he applies for a new grant, asking us first if we will approve a new, you know, laser cutter. But I think having that sense that yes, we would, but it's sort of making sure that the pages that we're on are pretty closely aligned. So I'm just a point of caution in approaching that. And I'm not saying that for this particular instance, but in general, look at that. We have to, we've got the board role, we've got the district administration role, and we have to always make sure that we're providing that amount of oversight, but also leeway that is a balance, so that we know where each of our authorities lie. It's just something to think about over time. I do, on addressing Tony Mosseri's question, I would hope that the design process would fold that question into the process and look at, so the design process is defining what is the problem. The problem is that we have insufficient access to healthcare, both for our students and the community as a whole in Eastern Whatcom County. So that's a problem. And then as part of that, as part of that design process, so looking at providing facility here, then part of a subset of that problem is, how do we avoid that interface between general public and the students, you know, and that's how you locate the building, whether you have one or more doors, have a, you know, what the access points are. But I figured that should be rightfully part of the design process, as long as the architects know these are the set of problems or issues that need to be addressed through the design process. So I'm confident that there would be solutions from a design standpoint that would deal with that. So I think I feel like we should go ahead at this point and continue with the process as it's unfolded. And you know, I agree with the comments about where funding is going in the legislature, but the legislature, we lobby. Ultimately, the legislature makes decisions that we don't always agree with, but then we have to then take those as they are and do the best we can with them. So I guess that's my attitude on this. So, any other discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion on interlocal agreement with Whatcom County Health Department.
Motion to approve interlocal agreement with Whatcom County Health Department. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. So it's 4-1 approved. Next is contract between PMC Architects and Mount Baker School District. Nick, if you want to address this one.
Yeah, this is a continuation of using the funds from the interlocal use approved. It's for us to work with the architect firm to look at spaces around here that if we ever get to the spot where we want to build out a full clinic, they would give us some advice on where that would best go, and involving, you know, like you said, measures around safety and accessibility. And so yeah, that's where the lion's share of this leftover money from the 30,000 will go towards just the advice they would give us.
Getting information
Mhm.
that doesn't cost us any money as
No,
a district.
right, correct. Yep, that's exactly right.
Questions or comments on this one?
So then is it also like plans for a building or just like information about where it would go,
Good question.
how it would look?
Yeah, it looks like there's a timeline on page 15, and it looks like listed in that timeline is design options. I mean, so that timeline's already slid back, so it looks like design options will be maybe March or April is when we'd see that, with the final report towards probably April at this point, yeah.
So, yeah, that, my understanding would be conceptual design. You know, that amount of money isn't gonna be a building design.
Right.
But you get the.
Yeah, you can get the nice drawing maybe.
Yeah, but like you say, design options, so you can tell those kind of things as what access would be like from here versus there. Answering those sorts of questions. Any other questions, comments? No. If not, I entertain a motion on the contract with the PMC Architects.
Motion to approve contract with PMC Architects. Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay. Okay, 4-1, passed. Next up is Mount Baker Resolution 2425-3, urging Washington State Legislature to address K-12 funding. Yes, just wanna.
Yeah, so this is a resolution that we've collaborated with around the county to urge the legislators to properly fund K-12 education. With it, if it successfully passes tonight, a letter accompanies it that covers the same thing, just more in narrative form, which if it does pass, all 5 of you and I would sign that. And then we would distribute the information. You know, assuming it'll pass tonight, it'll be a part of my community communication next Wednesday. We'll share it with our legislators. But as I mentioned earlier, it's that kind of that formal request, that formal urge.
I did have a question about the letter
Yeah.
that's accompanied. I think it's the second to last paragraph. It looked like some of the language was referencing Bellingham School District. And then I noticed that there was a note at the bottom that much of the language of the letter had been based off of a letter that the Bellingham School Board had created. And I wondered if we might want to change that language to Mount Baker School District. Because it was a bit confusing to me. We're representing Mount Baker School District and not Bellingham, and I didn't know if that was me misreading it somehow, or maybe just an easy
So we
adjustment.
did get the resolution from Bellingham.
We did.
Yep.
But I
Yeah.
think we're advocating on behalf of Mount Baker.
You're exactly right. That was a typo in the letter.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so I can fix that before.
So then is there that salary funding 270,000 more? Is that? pertain to
Those are
Bellingham?
figures.
Our figures.
Those are
So
figures. yeah.
it's just Bellingham where it should have said Mount Baker.
Because we were sort of using theirs. as a
Yeah, 'cause we were
template, which
coming-
is Fine,
yeah.
but yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
Now, this resolution, we're not voting on the letter, or, no, we are voting on the letter because we all sign it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the letter is born out of the resolution, so yeah.
So, I think we can change that wording just without an amendment, just correct a typo.
Third to the last one.
I've got it, Tammy.
Okay.
Good catch, thank you.
The grammar looks beautiful.
Your English background, so yes. So anything else in there that you found, Danielle, that?
No,
Okay.
no other changes.
Any other questions or comments? I I found both of these to be very well written and powerful. And I think they really lay out our case well, and I think they would be very valuable as we shop them through the legislative process. So, and I asked to put this on the agenda tonight because I think it needs to be at the beginning of the legislative session, so.
And I think we'll see similar resolutions and letters coming from neighboring districts as
Right.
they process them with their
Yeah.
boards.
And it's part of the coordination. I think Washington County superintendents, and that was mentioned at the town hall of Blaine, are doing a really great job coordinating their efforts and message. You know, just as the students are working on that too, but I think having the superintendents coordinate that it gives us a much stronger voice. So,
Can we print it on yellow paper?
Great idea. Love that. And 50 times.
Yeah.
with that, I entertain a motion on Mount Baker Resolution 24-25-3.
Motion to approve, resolution 24-25-3.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then reports, superintendent report.
Yeah, so I run a little long, so I didn't create too robust of a report. Give a little 2-page document, and I put it in the public section of the board document tonight as well. It's just kind of a legislative overview to give people information on how things work and what, you know, I know sometimes in education, we tend to throw around some education-ese or some acronyms, and so I want to make sure people felt comfortable with what we're talking about. So just kind of a 1-pager, talks about when the session starts, when it ends, who our representatives are, when we talk about WASDA or PSE or WEA or AWSP or WASA, they're all in there. What our priorities are, and how folks can work on advocating, and some of the advocacy work that Mount Baker has already done. So the intent of this was just to kind of create a quick tool that could support, you know, similar to these one. We find that when you create 1-pagers, those are some of the more effective tools. So this is kind of just a how-to guide to help folks that want to be involved. So that's the extent of my report for tonight. Yeah.
Thank you. And meeting schedule, we have, first of all, I wanted to see about, we have a proposed date of January 31st for making up the Mount Baker High School visit. Is that still work?
That works for Matt. Does it work for you guys? Friday the 31st.
And then what time, does that work for?
I can be there. I can be there.
Okay.
I'm leaving that day. Leaving on a jet plane.
What time?
Don't know.
Yeah, right.
I like this ball thing.
5:19 a.m.
Oh,
Well, we can hold it before then.
Oh, and I'm being here for us to. Sure.
you're not in school.
What it would look like.
Were there any alternate dates?
I mean, I
I hate to miss but if that's your guys' season on Wednesday, so it wouldn't be there. The meeting wouldn't be on a Friday anyway, so that would be what I would be interested in.
We have we have like ASP meetings every day during Pride, but then our big like hour-long meetings are on the later on Wednesdays, and it's every other Wednesday that our whole group gets together.
Okay.
And then the other Wednesdays are exec board.
Okay, I'll try to make it to one of those, but if everybody else can go on the 31st, just go, because we've already put it off a couple times already anyway.
We gotta get it in before Matt crashes again.
Yeah. What time would that be?
I was gonna ask you guys. Matt said he's pretty open all day. I mean, if we wanted to, we can swing by ASB. It sounds like they meet at 9:30.
9 to
9 to 9:30. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember what time we had scheduled last time,
It
but
was more of a morning time.
I can
yeah,
be here by
I think
9.
that
You
makes
can be here
sense.
by 9.
I can be here by 9.
9 a.m. start?
Okay.
Okay.
When would we go to?
They've each been about 90 minutes or 2 hours, right? Most.
Okay.
And we're about done with everything else. There's no.
Right.
We had been coupling them together, but I'd probably say 11,
Probably
11 at the latest, I'd say.
I could bring that up to ASB too and get back to you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then, we can, separate from this meeting, coordinate on trying to get together with some dates on legislative visit.
Yes.
Which
that'd be
we
great.
have to talk to the legislators, and I would like
I
to
know.
coordinate with some students, so
Yeah.
we can we'll do that separately.
May I send you the updated
Um,
letter for printing?
And Ed, you asked about guidance or having the board discuss guidance for the WIAA amendments. And looking timing wise, when to fit that in, as far as the WIAA board voting on it, that's in April. vote.
April, and then there is I guess, a discussion or a debate at the end of January. I made a note of that.
You said January 27th.
That's what I thought I would too.
Yeah, so it'd be nice if we were gonna discuss it and vote on an amendment that'd be prior to that, so it could be included in the with the schools that are involved in that.
You're saying before the 27th of this month?
That's when the next mile marker is, but
I mean, if you think about it, we have so much coming up in the next, with the superintendent search, that's 3 weeks of some heavy, intense interviewing happening. If it's not, the vote isn't until April, then I would say let's postpone it until after the superintendent search, because I don't have a lot of free time. This
Right.
isn't a priority for me.
right. Well, I guess I was hoping it wouldn't take more time than the legislative session one that we just looked at. I think that's not a realistic.
Well, at any meeting, you can always move to make a motion, and have
Motion.
something approved and then see what happens. But if you want to discuss it first, that takes a whole other time.
Yeah, I think from a practical standpoint, it would be better to have a work session first rather than just kind of.
Yeah.
Because I think we'd be spinning our wheels if we try to
Yeah,
do it just as a motion, so,
Take whatever people are wanting to do, we can.
but I,
Meet the April deadline, and that would be great.
yeah, what day in April,
I will, let me get back to you.
because I didn't print out, so what's the end, so the end date of our superintendent of that is
320,
it's around the first meeting in March.
314.
Right,
is-
yeah. So we could
Final question.
schedule this for the second meeting in March and still be before, we can set, the work session could be the second meeting in March. And then we'd still be before April. How about that?
That'd be great.
As your secretary, I'd remind you of the importance of probably vetting it with legal as well on whatever you choose to, if, just because someone else had said something is legal. I think it's
Well-
important that we ensure that it is legal.
And I'd also like to get like input from our school counselors, from the athletic director.
We talked about student voices tonight,
Student
importance of that.
voices, yeah,
Yeah.
and this, and athletes. I'd like to know what they're all thinking too, so.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, it's a. Yeah, I think that would work time wise for me. Okay, let's see what else we have. We've got the our next meeting of January 23rd, and I think that's
Study session, culture of care.
Cultural.
culture of care.
Yeah, we'll be hearing from Ian and Bridget. Kind of about
We were on
the,
Executive session before or after that one. Or no of it.
Oh, for the, probably at the end, I would say. Yeah. Or,
Going over that.
what's it called? Superintendent eval. I've been staring at it for a few weeks and I can't remember what it's called.
Okay,
Yeah.
so with that, during the meeting. Sign our document and thank you very much.
Everyone help yourself to a donut.
Yeah, you can have my donut.
I haven't had my dinner yet.
No
donuts, don't forget.
I mean, I didn't promise to.
I also have a cookie in my pocket, so.
We're pulling it, she goes, so when do I get my donut?
I mentioned at Blaine, I mentioned to her there'll be donuts tonight.
Oh,
so.
good.